So my name is Brad Laddusaw, president of the California Mortgage Association. We are here in Indian Wells, California for CMA's spring conference. I have Lucy Hernandez here with me with FCI Lender Services. Lucy,
Good to speak with you.
No, thank you for agreeing to jump in the hot seat.
Yeah.
Would you mind taking a few seconds, introduce yourself, your company, and some of the services you provide to your clients?
Of course. So my name is Lucy Hernandez. I work with FCI Lender Services. Been around for 11 years, working at the company of its 42 years of existence.
Just a few decades.
Yeah, just a few decades. So what my main role there is to speak with new lenders and then also continue that relationship with our ongoing lenders. So anytime there's new features, anytime they have questions about any processes, I make myself available to them and kind of get them through the whole thing.
So FCI, founded in 82?
1982, yes.
1982, and nationwide, only California?
Nationwide,
okay.
so we are licensed to service across all 50 states.
So I think when I first got into the private lending industry, and the years are starting to stack up, but not comparable to a lot of our members here, where they've been doing multiple decades, or FCI been around since the 80s. I remember the biggest challenge as early as 2013 or 14 was loan servicing. Like, you would self-service your loans in California,
Right.
but foreclosure laws, servicing laws are different state to state,
Yes.
and that was a big challenge. So how have you guys solved that problem?
So we have, think of us as your one-stop shop, right? From beginning to end, from origination, the minute the loan is born, to the end, including when a loan becomes an REO. Once it becomes an REO, we're out. So basically what happens is we have a network of attorneys across all 50 states. We do what we call is the foreclosure support. So we're not actually the ones foreclosing, we're providing support to the attorneys as your loan servicer, making sure that timelines are being met, deadlines are being met, that if there's any documents that are needed for the attorney to continue on, we'll provide them with that support throughout the whole process. In California, we do partner up with a company called California TD Specialists. So if there is a California foreclosure, then they have a direct connection into our system, so they're able to see where we're at in the foreclosure process.
And you guys are nationwide, but where's your office located?
We are located out of Anaheim Hills, California. So we have 3 buildings with 200 employees across 3 buildings.
So I think the employee count is fascinating in itself, and as well as the service you're able to provide to your clients. I think something that I've learned in speaking with you and your team over the years is just your internal controls you have in place. You don't have Lucy collecting the check, depositing it, and then releasing it to the investors. Would you mind touching on your different departments that you have?
Of course. So since we're talking, receiving checks, we have a cash room. Our cash room collects all the, physical checks, processes all those monies. I do believe we're at like 1.2 billion of money processed every month within our cash room.
With a B?
With a B.
With a B?
Billion with a B, yes. Hopefully trillions. So we have our cash room, our payment processing department that handles everything from extensions and draws and processing some of these more complex, reapplying payments if needed. You have a payoff department that handles all of the actual payoffs of the loans. So we're getting much so involved with AI is getting integrated into our processes. So now, for example, payoffs, you can very easily just go into our system, request a payoff, and it gets, as long as we have under approval, it gets sent out to you within a few hours.
So let's talk about your platform.
Yes.
Is it white labeled third party? Is it FCI's tech and platform? Touch on that.
So that's our baby. And I say our baby because I am involved in a lot of this development, but it's all proprietary. So we are very proud. We're very proud of our team, our technology. We have about 35 programmers that are working around the clock to make sure that our system's processing the way it should, and also handling any enhancements. So we're a very tech-driven company.
Yeah, and then so part of the onboarding process, actually let's backpedal. People think of FCI, see you as a loan servicer. You just collect the payment, post it, send it out, send out the notices. But when we were chatting right before we jumped on camera, you reminded me you do more than just
Yes.
loan servicing. Would you mind touching on that a little bit?
Yeah, so we do loan servicing. We are, like you said, day-to-day, payments collected,
backbone of
all
any
good,
loan
your back
business.
office.
Yeah.
But we also have a fund admin department that can handle your Reg D funds. As long as you have a PPM, we should be able to process, and do the fund admin. So what we'll do is the distributions. We can do monthly distributions, quarterly distributions. We can handle microfunds, 10, 20, $1 million, but can also handle those, bigger funds as well. So those that are integrated into our system or that we're handling the fund admin for, not only would we do your loan servicing, but we also provide our customers with dashboards. We call them the fund dashboards. So our investors, our partners get their dashboard, the lenders or the managers get a dashboard, and then also their CPAs get a dashboard. So they can always have live information in their system at any given moment. There's no issues with the transactions and stuff happening.
Very good. And then to be clear, your fund admin is under the FCI umbrella,
Correct.
but you have your own separate internal controls and teams for the fund admin.
Absolutely.
And then you have the loan servicing
Correct.
separate, but it's a little bit more fluid. 'Cause
Exactly. It's all under FCI. It's all FCI Lender Services, but the fund admin is a separate service that can be added on top of the loan servicing.
And that's my biggest,
Yeah.
I don't want to use gripe, but that's my biggest pain point that I talk to just private investors about. So here are some questions you want to ask if you're going to be investing with any company. It's like, is it just one person doing it all, which can be good
Yeah.
and can work if they have the controls in place, but what happens if that one check signer distributing or signing the check for your
Exactly.
distributions, and we call it life happens.
Yeah.
Gets hurt, injured, can't do
Absolutely.
that. And I think from talking to you, it sounds like FCI is the back office support. It is the loan servicing team. It's not just
Exactly.
having 2 or 3 people in the office. You have up to 200 employees in
Yeah.
that department behind you to support you.
Exactly. You have your executive team, who's built of, Michael Griffith, who is our CEO, his son. It's still a very family-oriented company. So Michael Griffith, our CEO, and then you have Timothy Griffith, who is our executive director. And then from there, it kind of, you have all your area supervisors and directors that are making sure that everything's processing and going through seamlessly.
And then let's not pivot, keep going on the loan servicing side. What does the, say I'm a brand new lender, I just started my shop, considering loan servicing in-house, I make the decision, no, I do not want to service in-house, I want to engage a third-party loan
Right.
servicer such as FCI. What does that onboarding process look like? Who do I call first? What does that education that you guys provide on breaking down your
course.
services, how does that look?
So all my new investors, I tell them the same thing. Getting in the business, don't have a loan yet, but we'll get there first. I always tell them, get your closing done first. We'll be here, get your closing done first. You start to see kind of like a, what do they call it? Like when you're overanalyzing,
Analysis paralysis,
yes,
yeah.
exactly. So get your closing done first. We'll be here. We service one loan at a time, so all you need is that one loan to get things going. So get your closing done. Make sure you're working with an escrow title company in California or a closing attorney if it's an attorney state. Don't pull your documents off the internet. That's a big no-no for us. Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself. Once you've got your closing done,
We have plenty, I don't mean to cut you off,
Yeah.
we have plenty of attorneys here at CMA that would gladly help you with docs.
Exactly.
And there's some integration.
And there's some that we will say, hey, many of our clients use them. Go to them.
Yeah.
Just don't go on the internet and pull a template loan.
You mean AI, my AI set of loan docs that spit out in 30 seconds? I might wait on that a little.
Wait, are you doing that?
No, we're going to. So I
Okay.
crack a joke. It's where AI is moving very quick, and there is a great value add, but it's still in its infancy, and if you're relying on ChatGPT for a new set of loan documents,
don't do that.
Exactly.
No, but see, people are pulling like images and then just like PDFing like their
Merging them
information.
together.
Yeah, just like, hey, here's I'm lending, to my niece or nephew or whoever, and here's an image of a promissory note, and I just went in and changed some information. And so don't do that. It happens. We've seen it. Don't do it. So go to escrow title company, go to a closing attorney, get your closing done.
I can
know.
only imagine some of the stuff you see here, and it's like,
Yeah.
you guys closed? It's recorded on it?
We've seen some fraudulent loans come in, and Chris, who's also here, will stop them before they even hit our department.
Got it.
But we've seen we've seen a couple things here and there. Yeah. So get your closing done. Once you've compliant closing, let's stick with that word, compliant closing. Once you're done, signed and closed, or even a week out from your closing date, contact me directly. And I'll walk you through the 3 forms that you'll need to fill out, add those 2 together, and then once your closing is done, send them to our boarding team.
Yeah, and then as part of that, the onboarding of the loan, before we get to the onboarding of the loan, is there any steps a company would take? Let's say they're an originating broker and we do the traditional trust deed route. So we're representing, let's use my company for example. We represent high net worth individuals, a couple of different family offices, we engage a loan servicer. Is there anything that my company needs to do before onboarding the loan, whether it's a master loan servicing agreement, or is it just kind of, hey, close the loan, we're ready to go?
Not servicing agreements yet. The only 2 things, well, one thing that we ask if you are going to select FCI as your servicer, and it helps eradicate a step on your end, is to include on your paperwork, please make payment to FCI Lender Services. That way the borrower knows from the very beginning who their servicer is going to be, and we don't have to worry about sending any RESPA notices. That's the only thing that we'll ask. If it doesn't happen, totally fine. When we receive it, we'll coordinate getting a goodbye and hello letter sent out if necessary.
Very good. And then if I'm overseeing the servicing for all of our loans for our investors, I'll have my own servicing agreement. And then do I provide that to FCI so FCI knows that I have servicing
your
rights
broker.
effectively?
Yeah,
and I'm overseeing it, and you're going to adhere to
Absolutely. So we'll call that your investor agreement. So we'll need to see basically what your relationship, an outline of the relationship between you and your investor. That way we know if you're receiving a spread, retaining a spread, what that would look like, what your permissions are, et cetera.
Yeah, and I'm sure you have some come in like, what type of agreement? Like, why don't you don't have authorization technically to? How do you handle that?
If we would have had this conversation, because I always want to have a conversation with someone before, I would have sent you a summary of our services and then also included a summary of that investor agreement for you. So you know what is needed at that time of boarding.
Oh, perfect. So if I were to call you, hey, I started my shop, we're going to be using private investors to do this. What do you need from me to fluidly upload a loan and then be able to see my total portfolio for all my different investors?
Exactly. So I'll send you, and that's the importance of me having that initial conversation, because I get a little bit of a sense of what you're doing. So I get to see I'll send you the 3 agreements plus a summary of the 3 agreements that will be set in place depending on the relationship. So investor agreement between you and your investor, the master servicing agreement between FCI and you, and then the standard loan servicing agreement between FCI and your investor.
And then I want to touch real quick on the departments, because I think it's important for lenders and private investors to ask their lenders questions about who is servicing my loan. What do those processes look like? We touched on the departments you have. You have the cash department, or accepting the checks. You have the payment processing. Is your payoff department separate? And then if you get into problem loans and potential foreclosure, is there a completely separate department for that?
Exactly.
Or how is that structured with
So
you?
you have, going back to the very beginning, right? Loan servicing is made up of our onboarding department, our payment processing department, cash room, and then also our payoff department. You can also include reconveyance in there, but they're kind of like on the way out. So, but technically it's all a part of the same bubble of loan servicing. In the event of delinquency, your loan does get placed into what we call as our specialty services. So you have the option of FCI being very hands-on with trying to reach that resolution, or you can take that responsibility on yourself as well, as long as you're making sure you're staying on top of your laws and regs. But FCI is still knows, hey, this loan's in distress, it's delinquent, and lender is the one that is doing outreach to the borrower directly, which does happen.
And then one other thing I learned not too long ago about your team, a lot of private lenders in California, across the country, they do fix and flip loans.
Yes.
Does FCI have the ability, if we have a fund control that's pre-funded on day one, does FCI have the ability to hold those in a restricted account, and then we could do releases after we get inspections? Is that an option, or is that?
Exactly. So all of our funds are in the same account, but they're segregated by accounting. So every single loan, you'll get to see how much is sitting in your restricted reserves, if there's escrow, if there's anything sitting in the trust, basically.
All the trust accounting.
Exactly. So all of that is segregated by different buckets, right? So if you are going in that fix and flip, which is the majority of our loans have some type of construction component. I want to say about 90% of the loans that we're boarding, newly originated, have that construction component. So to answer your question, yes, we do have an open API, which we can absolutely touch on because that's another pride and joy of ours, which can integrate directly with, someone like a fund control service or loan origination software or even a CRM if you're using that.
It's great because I think that's the biggest. It can be a challenge. It's like, all right, we're financing $45,000 or $60,000 worth of rehab monies, and we need to hold it back, doing everything under a DRE broker's license, needs to be in a restricted account.
Correct.
Yes, some investors are concerned that that's just going to go to the borrower, but the way that is structured, it's us as, depending on our servicing agreement with our investor, and our investor, you're listening to our direction.
Yeah, we're taking direction from either you, the broker, or we're taking direction from the lender directly. You guys let us know when it's time for us to release those funds to the borrower. You can hang on to them, but most, do send them to us and we can disperse at the direction of the lender or the broker.
Yeah, and I think a big value add, potentially outsourcing loan servicing is to not have to deal with the trust accounting.
Absolutely.
I was in auditing before I got into the loan business. I think I'm a nice guy, but I don't want to be sitting next to myself in an audit, especially a trust accounting audit. So you guys kind of bear the
we
brunt of all
have
the trust.
audits, So we get SOC 1, SOC 2 audits, right? We get, a state audits, CFPB audits.
And then with the DRE, I'm sure.
Exactly. And we even audit ourselves. So we have an internal compliance department that's making sure we're processing things as we should, staying on top of our laws and regs as well.
Yeah, and I think that's a big value add is the internal controls component, and then your own internal auditors. I'm sure you have staff because to be SOC compliant, you're auditing effectively your internal controls, and you have a third party coming in and reviewing these. And it's like, hey, either here's our blessing, or I'm oversimplifying it, but it's like, you guys have checks and balances in place, or here's some big.
Exactly. We have an attorney that oversees our audit and compliance department, our compliance attorney, and there's about 4 or 5 people in that department that are auditing our team at all given all the time. So if someone processes something, or didn't do something, didn't attach something, has a question about anything, they'll reach out to that person and management, say, hey, what's going on here? How can we correct this? If it is an error, how can we correct this? And fix it from there.
Okay, so I want to do a little bit of a pivot here. This is something you told me at the last conference, and my kind of jaw hit the floor a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's touch on blockchain.
Yes.
FCI steps you've taken, are taking, and what is potentially coming down the pipe that you guys are kind of getting ready for?
Yes, so we have a blockchain powered by what we call is the IPFS. And what our clients are using this for, and we want them to use it for, is from the point of origination, put everything through the blockchain. So you have all of this data memorialized within the blockchain. If you want to go sell your loan, how many times, it's basically an auditor's dream, right? Because every single transaction goes on the blockchain. So if you want to sell off a loan or sell multiple loans off, which is what our biggest use case for this we think will be, is go in, provide them the token to the loans that you want to sell off, and they can go in and see every single document, every single transaction, all authenticated by by our blockchain. And it's certificate of authenticity.
Yeah, and so you have that on the blockchain, but then you have the loan that we onboard, let's say, to your servicing team department. Does that automatically communicate and go onto the blockchain, and is that available to your clients already to kind of see how that flow through works?
Absolutely. It's all connected to we are powered by APIs. So from our internal system connects directly to a live lender login that you have access to. You can kick that up a notch and connect into your own system, a CRM, via API as well, right? And then on top of that, all of that information is connected to the blockchain via API. So all of that stuff is memorialized within blockchain.
And I think And I was chatting with a gentleman earlier this morning on, you have some investors, they hear blockchain and they immediately think crypto.
No.
But
Yeah.
it's different, and then FCI has the internal controls in place on the
Correct.
servicing side, and those are audited, reviewed, and then you
Correct.
also have the flow through to the blockchain, so you have the checks and balances versus
Correct.
me
Just, yeah.
starting up a meme coin. It's not
Exactly.
It's not
That's not it.
yeah.
It's not it at all. I think would we want to get into tokenizing assets? I think that the world is headed in that direction, but really it's a vault of all your transactions, all your data, everything's in there.
So your team is very forward thinking and looking on seeing where things are going, and you have the
Correct.
resources on the tech side to get the infrastructure in place. It's not necessarily, hey, we're going to change the world with tokenizing loans, but hey, let's get the infrastructure in place. Let's have the blockchain effectively ready, do a few test cases with some clients, and then kind of get ready for what's coming. Is that kind of the mindset?
So it's funny. So when we started the APIs, gosh, we're probably looking at must have been about 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic. People are like, what are you thinking? Like, that doesn't work. I had some tech companies at some conferences approaching me and saying, why are you telling people you have an API? You don't have an API. You can't connect directly. It's not live. Oh, it sure is. It's absolutely live. It took one client to connect to our API to kind of set it off and say, oh my gosh, it is all live information. We had people pulling once every 30 seconds. We had to tell those clients, hey, kind of take it back a little bit. Like maybe connect, maybe pull data once every, couple hours, or do what we call as a handshake and just pull up-to-date information rather than everything over again. But it's all there. It's live, and the same thing's happening with blockchain. What do you mean? No, it's there. Our clients just let us know. We can show you how to use it.
No, and I think that, when you told me that, I was like, I was literally talking to someone a few months ago, and they're like, yeah, I want to go down this route. I think tokenizing is going to be the next thing.
Yes.
Put in deals on the blockchain. You told me at the conference, I was like, it's already done?
Yeah,
I was
it's
like,
already
get out of
done.
here. I thought this was new. It is new, but you guys are
It seems
on
like
top
we're
of
like
it.
3 years ahead of where, about 3-4 years ahead of where it's headed. So
It's like I'm playing checkers and you're playing chess.
yeah, something like that.
All right, so we're going to do a complete 180 here. Who is Lucy Hernandez? What do you do for fun? What makes you tick?
Okay, so
This was not on the list.
Okay,
So this is a
all right.
I'm throwing this at you.
So I am the biggest homebody ever. I love reading. So I love fantasy, I love poetry, and I love a good, like fiction. I like fiction. Anything historical fiction, like that's what I love. Just quiet. I love building Legos. But if I'm not home, I'm at the soccer field. So my husband, and my 2 boys are very much so involved with soccer, and they play all the time, every weekend. So if I'm not at home, I take advantage of every moment I have with the quiet of, just being at home. I'm at the soccer field 90% of my weekends.
How old are your 2 boys, you said?
I have 2 boys.
How old are your boys?
I have a 12-year-old and a 5-year-old.
And then
It's fun.
The 5-year-old look up to the older brother a lot, and is the older brother like hanging out with the little brother, or is he getting to the age where it's like, hey, leave me alone?
It's interesting. No, he's very protective of his younger sibling. Yeah, they squabble, and
As they should.
There's a lot of rough housing, and somebody hit me, that kind of stuff. But it's all fun. They have a really good relationship.
Last question. Bucket list trip. Money is not a concern. Where are you taking your family? Bucket list trip.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to say I'm going to go back to Rome. I want to go back to Rome. Just actually, you know what? Travel up and down Italy. Rome is awesome, but just up and down Italy. That's it. Money's just.
Yeah. So if you're going up and down Italy, are you guys renting a big camper van and just doing like a cruise? Or are you just going top of the line with hotels wherever you're
That's
at?
it. It has to be hotels.
I've never been, so.
Italy?
Yeah. No, my wife's been. I have not. Yeah.
Okay, so all of our trips currently are powered by soccer events.
Yeah.
So if there's a soccer event going on, we're going to go there.
Yeah.
So just hotels every weekend at a new stadium. watching different teams.
That would be fun. I'm sure your boys would be over the moon.
Oh yeah, I've gotten used to it.
Lucy, thank you so much for sitting down with me. This
Yeah,
was a blast
absolutely.
chatting with you. And how can everyone find out about you or FCI? What's the best
So
way?
myfci.com/start. That's how you find us, and all your onboarding packages, contacts are all within that website.
Very good. Well, thanks again for agreeing to jump in the hot seat with me. I told you it'd be painless. It'd be
It'd be fun.
fun.
That was
So,
fun.
Thank you
That was a
very
lot of
much.
fun.
Bye.
Thanks.